Good afternoon, everyone. It is November 12th, 2023, and we've had more or less kind of what I was looking for. I mentioned during last week's Outlook that, look, we didn't have any big news. We had a major expansionary week the prior week, so what I was going to look for was a lot of consolidation and perhaps a turn on Wednesday or Thursday, and we did kind of get that. This looks like a red session, but really it did close above the prior day's close, so I would consider that a green day. Uh, Thursday, we tried to sell off a really hard sell, uh, low close on the S&P, on the Qs, on the Dow, and the Rusty. Uh, However, all that was negated on Friday. Uh, Tested kind of those lows and just ripped upwards, broke the high. The Q's doing it the best here. Uh, Clearly the leader. I think within 5 or 10 minutes on the day, I was saying I'm looking for us to get to the prior day's high, and shit, we blew right past that. Did that on the S&P, the Qs, the Dow as well. A little bit weaker, wasn't doing so great. Didn't really extend past the prior the high of the week that we had made earlier, and the the Russell per the norm. Extremely weak, unable to even break that prior day's high. So, here's what I'm kind of thinking for this week. We spent, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions above this gap on the S&P. We were unable to break that Friday low, the low of this last trading day from last week. We could not break that during the entire week. So to me, unsurprisingly, we have a lot of shorts trapped from this run up. Anyone who is short here, I suppose, is trapped around here. And I imagine what we're going to have this week is, yeah, look, we got some news events. This isn't the right one. There we go. Sorry, that's not right. That's not right. That's not. There we go. That's the one I wanted to show. Look, we have some news events coming out this week: CPI, PPI, some crude oil crap, some unemployment stuff, building permits, all this sort of stuff. Obviously, CPI and PPI taking priority. However, I think in general, what you're going to get this week is, I think we're going to have a wider range than we did last week. I think other than Friday, I think the entire week was something like a 60-point range or something as we were trading around here. I think this was something like a 60, 70-point range, something very mediocre. Um, I imagine instead what we'll get is something like, can I draw a box here? There we go. Let's call it something like this. I imagine this is what we'll kind of trade around, whatever that is, kind of a $10, yeah, $11 sort of range. I'd be surprised if we were able to rip through all of this inventory here. This was a really heavy sell. I imagine we won't be breaking these highs anytime soon, not this week at least. But I think you're going to get people who repeatedly try and short this into the hole, get trapped, rip back up. Short into the hole, rip back up. This reminds me a lot like this consolidation from April and May, where we kept on, kind of this specifically, where we had this gap session, and every time we tried to break this low, rip upwards, try and break the low, rip upwards, break the low, rip upwards, rip, 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 rip. Same thing here, rip again. This gap remains, hey, it still remains unfilled to this day. Uh, not all gaps need to fill, believe it or not. And so I don't look. Will this fill in the future? Maybe. I just don't think it'll fill this coming week, unless CPI does something crazy or PPI does something crazy. I don't see it happening. Qs similarly, I don't really see us breaking this Thursday low. By the way, ES was diddling above Friday's low. This thing made a higher. This is Friday's low on the Qs, and we did not even come anywhere near that. The Dow was weaker. We managed to break Friday's low and get into that gap, but we couldn't actually close that gap. So and the Russell obviously just a kind of a shit show. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the ES, like I drew that little box wherever it went. There you go. I think for the most part, you have a range something like this on the ES. I think the NASDAQ for the most part, let's just keep drawing boxes. I like it. Seems pretty simple. I think the NASDAQ similarly has some trouble breaking these kinds of lows. Maybe something like this, right? Where's our Dow buddy? I think the Dow is going to be a little bit weaker, but in general, maybe something like this. And the Rusty, I don't really care about. um, I don't know. Maybe we diddle around something like that, right? So, in general, I'm looking for the breadth. If you want to look at the Russell as determining market breadth, I think it'll be kind of sideways. I don't expect it to rip upwards. I don't think it'll kind of break these lows. I think we'll just kind of be churning around. I think the Dow will slowly keep moving upwards. I think the Nasdaq is going to be once again the long ticker, and I think the S&P is going to, with the weight of the Dow and the Russell, I think the S&P is going to kind of move upwards along with the Nasdaq, getting carried up by the Nasdaq. I do not have the COT data. Friday was a holiday, so I don't have that until tomorrow. So maybe I give this thing an update or something. We'll see. But that's how I'm looking at this. I think I'd be really careful trying to. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. Last week I was saying, look, I'd be really careful trying to short this thing until we have structure above us. I thought that's what we were going to get Friday. Friday we were opening, above kind of the prior few days structure. But once again, it ripped upwards. And look, now you got all that shit below you. I would be hesitant getting short on this thing. If I was a swing trader, what I would want to see is let this thing come back downwards, see it try to break this high, fail, and then maybe put on a short. For now, this is very similar to this session where we made a climactic high, tried to run it. Okay, now we're finally below the structure. This is when it would look clear to me to take the short on a swing. Let it try and run the high, fail, get below all the structure. By this open, you're below all the structure. That's when you can take a short opportunity against that high. See what happens. Same thing. Climactic day, let it sell off a bit, see if it can run the high or not, let it get below all this structure that will be built out, and then maybe take the short. That's about it. CPI, PPI, unemployment numbers, nothing really else this week. I don't think any major earnings or anything. I'm looking for another green week. I wouldn't be too ambitious on shorting this thing. Trade with the structure. The only thing I can say is that look, the sentiment for a green end of year seems pretty locked in by the bulls. It seems like FinTwit and everyone seems very ambitious for a bullish end of year, and maybe that takes a week or two to reverse. Maybe towards the end of November, that's when we get a sell, and everyone who's trying to get long for the end of the year, everyone who's getting long here, who's going to continue to get long here, maybe that's when we wash them all out. And, we close somewhere very uneventful, like 420, 424, somewhere around here. But for now, I'll be looking to trade with the structure, mostly to the long side. Hope that makes sense. Hope that helps. Have a great night. Trade safe.